Visual, let's see. Valium, Ivana. Okay, there we go. Anisha. All right, that's all the bodies we have on deck. 12. Good. Stand by. You just messaged?
Yeah. They'll come in.
Visual. What's the last thing that we covered in this group? Does anybody remember?
Yeah, we was going over the cease and desist, and that they were bound in by the licensing agreement.
That's correct. And we're going to break down the cease and desist today in certain aspects. Thank you.
You betcha. Looking forward to it.
All right, in 2 minutes, how about this? In 2 minutes, 1740, or 1940, we're gonna begin.
Sounds good. Sounds
All
good.
right. Let me grab my ashtray.
You betcha.
Fuck. Boom. Okay, time of deck is 1940. Let's start. Let's talk about the cease and desist. I'm going to break it down. It is a licensing agreement. And the first portion asks everybody to cease and desist, whoever's the infringer, right? To cease and desist. Now, the implications of cease and desisting acts as a legislative or legislated protocol to have the party cure if there's any misconception of the use of the mark. People cannot be held normally on a common law trademark. They cannot be held normally liable if they weren't aware that the trademark really existed. Okay? Federally registered marks are put through something called the Gazette. And the Gazette pretty much publishes your mark and notifies the public that your mark is in fact a trademark. Defensible by statute strictly. Okay? So the cease and desist cures any misconception surrounding your mark of whether it is a mark or not, to be protected under statutes as provided. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I got it.
So there's almost like a 3-day curing period to get the statutory protections of a common law trademark. But you must send a cease and desist if it's common law or unregistered, meaning it's one and the same, right? So every time I say common law trademark, consider it an unregistered trademark. Does that make sense?
Got it.
Good.
Yes.
Now, there are important portions of that trademark cease and desist, and we create a licensing agreement to further enhance the context of the cure of said usage of the mark and infringement. So what does that mean? When we add the licensing agreement, we specify how we want them to cure in broader terms than just the cease and desist. Why do we ask for those broader terms is the most important question. Because if it's a licensing agreement, then it should be a license to use the mark. And to cure how they use the mark, we must almost help them continue to use the mark under specified terms and conditions. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Question.
Now, when we specify the continued use of the mark, what are we really trying to gain based on the licensing agreement that I've given you guys? If you have read it, you would know. If you haven't, you have failed.
To get them to consent into it.
Say again,
Them to-
Alan?
Yeah, to get them to consent, to get them to agree to the terms and conditions of the contract.
No, well,
That's
the,
I thought
true.
it holds them
We
in.
will pull them in with the ADR clause for binding of a non-signatory. So those are part of the terms and conditions which create binding of a non-signatory. So that is one. That we establish an ADR clause surrounding how they will cure, and that creates binding of a non-signatory. Let's get another one. What else?
By their action, they agreed to the contract.
EB, no, we do not want them to infringe. That is the whole purpose of sending a cease and desist. And even if we will have a better or higher chance of winning as a result of continued use due to binding of a non-signatory, the cease and desist and intent of the cease and desist is important to express in a matter. That means in a court. So you always have to act like, I wanted them to stop. I didn't want them to continue to infringe. Right. That duality is what creates survivability of your claim. All right. So now, let's also look at number two. Number two is that what do we want? We want them to stop. When do we want it? Now. How do we want it? And that is what is included in our licensing agreement, the how. The ADR clause almost acts as a quarantine, so that's a mechanism to box them in, but the how is what's located in our licensing agreement. So how would you want them to stop? It's all just shy, it's together. That's why it was written together. So you just send out one document. So how do we want them to stop? Well, we want them to stop by grabbing all infringing articles, right? And destroying those infringing articles, right?
That's
Yes,
brilliant.
they're giving them
Yeah,
a deal.
Go ahead.
And giving them a deal that they want to refuse.
That would no, that they wouldn't want to refuse, right? Because what? And I think we said the same thing, but that they wouldn't want to refuse. Why? because it would absolve them of statutory liabilities as encased by law and by the terms and conditions of the contract for continued use. Because we also quantify what happens if they breach said continued use.
They get
And
the
that's
boot to
when
the
they're
head.
liable.
Huh?
Compensation.
Oh, the clash just grew. Let's go.
I said that's when they're held liable if they continue.
For the contract, that's right. Now, they can be held liable. Let me just say this quickly. They can be held liable statutorily for a common law breach. Here's your statute, 15 U.S.C. 1125D. But the thing is that when we add the terms and conditions, they are now held to alternative dispute resolution, which makes them bound even further. And by further, it includes the terms and conditions, as well as in those terms and conditions, we quantify the maximum statutory remedy as a term and condition, making it $2 million as opposed to just an injunction. Now, okay. Now, that cease and desist is dynamic. Tell me different terms. No, tell me different, if you have read it, different clauses that cease and desist produces or provides as terms and conditions. I'll start with one. It provides an arbitration clause. What other terms and conditions and clauses does it provide? And Tuba, if you want to pull up a copy, it'd be pretty good for the screen. And we're not just talking from memory.
Is this the new one you're pulling up, Raymond? The one you just did?
No. We're going to pull up a version because that is sufficient for this class.
Sure.
Good. So we have arbitration, right? And then what's another one? Tuba, can you scroll down to one so we can speak of it? Is that a new one? That probably is. Maybe not. Keep going. Just keep going. Right, so we have the licensor's control. We have the use of the trademark. We have the term and termination. We have protections. We have remedies for breach and dispute resolution, alternative dispute resolution, which is arbitration. Then we go down to arbitration. We have an opt-out. Give them the choice of law, yeah. Keep going. Tupo, go up. We don't have a non-disclosure agreement to this new one? Or is it written in one of the bullet points?
This is the original one, the first one that we got. I think it's in the bullet points.
Okay. Can you find that while we're looking for it? I mean,
Yeah.
while we're talking? Find it off camera and then put it back up. Okay. Because it might fall under protections and things like that. It might fall under Article 5 and things like that. So here's the deal. Let's talk about the non-disclosure agreement as bound as non-signatories. Who here knows what a non-disclosure agreement is?
Means you're not allowed to talk about it.
That's right. Okay, is the
For
non-disclosure
embarrassment
agreement
purposes.
just limited to the cease and desist party, or is that also including the trustees to not also talk about it in public? Chupo, it exists in the arbitration clause, just so you know. Thank you.
Yes,
That's where the non-disclosure exists. Go ahead.
includes the trustees too. It does include the trustees. They're not allowed to take private trust business into the public.
That's right. So let me ask a question, guys. Let's say that Alan and Dominic, can I get your voice from the heavens, please?
Hello.
Thank you. So here's the deal. Let's say that Alan and Dominic are trustees and they send a cease and desist for taxation to a federal court, to the IRS, blah, 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 blah. And let's say Dominic hired Alan to handle, because he's a Gambit trustee. If Dominic doesn't like Alan's services, can he go out into the public on social media forums and disparage him?
No.
The answer is no. Would that create a breach of the agreement?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Amazing. So now watch this before everybody's hair blows up. What happens if the prosecutor goes to court and continues his proceedings? Does it affect them too?
Yep.
Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Confidential, right? So we got the confidential information, non-disclosure and confidential information. Good. Thank you. Tupo, can you kill screen? Because now they've seen it. It is on screen. It will be able to be referenced. So here's my deal. Nobody is allowed to talk about those dynamics. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Now, when we do the arbitration clause, as well as it exists, hey, check this out. What happens if the parties start talking about the arbitration during the proceeding?
They're in breach of a non-disclosure.
And the arbiters will render the award in favor of the aggrieved party.
There you have it.
Good.
Yeah, man.
So now watch this. Hold on. Put back on my reins. My hands were hurting for a second there because of steroid usage. Look, so here's my stuff. Here's my point. Nobody involved once that cease and desist goes out can speak. Does that make sense? Especially if they continue to use that mark for financial gain. Does that make sense?
That's
Mhm.
great, man. That's really
Yeah. Remember that. Let me explain to you why. I have had cases where I have had snitches, meaning I find out later that the dude with the gun snitched on his friend. And I don't condone it, but here's the deal. Am I allowed to disparage them, especially as a Gambit trustee?
Are you allowed to what?
Disparage them if I accept the duty to help them?
I'd say no. If you accepted it to help them, then you're bound to agreement. You
right.
agreed to help them. Yeah,
That's
sorry.
right. So watch this. Watch this. No matter what the emotions are in the moment, the speaking will breach the contract, including the prosecutor going to do his natural course of business. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Does anybody here not understand and think Hey, and especially if you think that your emotions mean a damn when it comes to arbitration in that agreement. So I could light it up right now.
That's hilarious. Yeah, man.
You almost have to be a drone now once that contract is there. Does that make sense? A drone.
Got my poker face ready.
That's it. That's all it is. That's why I said in day one, do not give a monkey a gun. Now, let me give you the avenue of why I'm approaching this. Because in certain cases, it could be sensitive. And if you gain this capacity and try to help them, do not defile the very cease and desist that you sent, because then you would be in breach, and a guy like me on the receiving end will burn you in hell if I was a prosecutor at arbitration and still prosecute you. Who here disagrees with the logic that I propose?
I don't, but if you expand a little bit more on it, it'd be great.
Everything within the cease and desist is mentioned in the indenture. Okay, yeah. So those are the rules of the context. Make sense? Because it comes with text, context, with text. It is a very razor sharp, once you deploy the cease and desist, very razor sharp, walk the plank or get eaten by sharks type of maneuver. Anybody not understand that? Good. Let's look at a case where a non-disclosure agreement with an arbitration clause was used, in which the party that spoke, thinking that they had a right, even though they thought it was constitutionally protected, lost. Now, there's a famous example I like to use. Can anybody mention that example, and then I'll expand on it? And that is for Alan's purposes.
You talking about the
Donald
Nike
Trump.
case?
Donald Trump, nope. And Stormy Daniels.
Oh, there we go.
Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels. Let's talk about it. Let's catch the Holy Ghost of fucking goddamn Orange Man Rad. Orange Man Rad. Okay. So there's $150,000 given to this girl. I don't know. Don't know. John, speak now, or we will destroy your existence in this room.
No, I haven't admitted him yet, but I don't remember who John K is. Does anyone know?
I don't remember either. Good. Destroyed. No, Josiah. Not the indenture. The indenture bounds the trustees, and the trustee's job is to deploy that cease and desist. So DK. No, I don't know. I don't know who John K is. Okay, if you don't know who John K is, don't write. Thank you. So let's speak about it. All right. Donald Trump was a political figure, yes or no?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have the right to criticize political figures under the First Amendment without retribution?
Yes.
Okay, so Stormy Daniels gets in the bid for $150,000. Okay? She's given a non-disclosure agreement by proxy of the lawyer. She says, yes, 150,000, yes. Where does she go? To that bedroom. Now, here are the sounds. We're not going to talk about what happened. There you go. Those are the sounds. So she leaves the room with a bag and her bottom blown out. Alhamdulillah. I need to
That's
stop.
funny, man.
I need to stop. So look. so okay. So Donald Trump becomes president. Michael Avenatti becomes the lawyer. Michael Avenatti is full of shit. He knows that this is defamation. He knows that there's an arbitration clause for a non-disclosure, even if it may be considered prostitution, because it is a natural practice amongst the elites to shut off after consideration and sex work. Now, does Donald Trump go to jail for prostitution? No. Does she go to jail for prostitution? No. And there's a non-disclosure. It's business under different circumstances. I mean, I don't make the rules. I don't give a fuck about the metrics either. But what I do know is that once he becomes a political figure, what does Stormy Daniels want to do? Talk about her sexual experience and create a book deal. Correct or incorrect?
Correct.
All right. So now she's trying to monetize the very thing that she should have shut the fuck up about.
Absolutely.
After she's been given consideration. The trademark is consideration in our example, due to IP valuation. And so she gets this lawyer. This lawyer's like, yeah, you got a First Amendment right. He's not legal theory ass motherfucker. That's why he's in jail for extorting Nike. He tells her, hey girl, you should be able to speak on this now in the context of a political figure, that there should be some sort of alternate route question. So they made an agreement based on a sexual act. That's right. It almost made it legal prostitution amazing. The consumer, Donald Trump, 150,000. Alhamdulillah. So she runs her mouth all over the internet. And then a federal court case ensues. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah.
Why was a federal court case ensued?
Breach of the non-disclosure.
Who do you think lost after that sexual act, running their mouth, trying to make First Amendment defenses?
That would be Stormy Daniels. Lost big time.
Stormy Daniels, okay? And then she tried to appeal, and do you think she owed him double pretty much?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now let's say they did do the act, yet Donald Trump won at both levels. Donald Trump went on his Donald.win and wrote the following. And I still never slept with that mother. Is it defamation on behalf of Donald Trump?
Nope.
Why?
Because it's his opinion and his statement of what happened.
No, it's because the matter, no matter how real it existed, does not exist legally.
Seriously.
What would happen if she would have went to court and said, no, but it did exist, and tried to sue for defamation against Donald Trump?
The non-disclosure would kick in.
That's right. Again. And that means she's in violation and in contempt of court of a judgment already rendered. Too bad that he's in jail for extorting Nike. Wow, I hadn't considered that. Thank you, Evie. Now, we are looking at the licensing agreement, so we went through that, right? And I just wanted to make sure that we had a consensus of different terms. So confidentiality is a big one. And I've been told by a few good people that I should never tell you guys on a recording that I have to piss. So from now on, I will say pineapple and then I will exit. 30 seconds. And every time I come back, I must say coconut. Coconut. So now, what say we about said situation? Free flow starts now. Damn right, trustees could catch yourself a Stormy Daniels. Alhamdulillah. I wouldn't catch a Stormy Daniels. She's just not my type. What I would catch is a fish in the ocean and try to give it to people as a Sermon of the Mount, not because I think I'm Christ, but I would fish for all of them with a net just to make sure. Very tropical. Thank you. And this is tropical. So, and that's it. Okay. All right. So here's the deal. Let's talk. Free flow starts now. This is correct. Even if she was trying to monetize, this is correct.
When you hit it with the arbitration, do you tell them how fast they have to pay you if they're considered to be guilty of infringement?
This is a fact. And not only is it a fact, it becomes a factor. Inside of that cease and desist, when you quantify how long the proceedings should take.
Okay, yeah, so if you don't say it, then they can just take their sweet ass time.
That's right. That's why we don't go to litigation, we go to arbitration. Because if not, you would stand there wherever you are, and there you are for 7 years till these queers decide that your matter should be adjudicated.
Got it.
Under our 60 days to 120. 60 to 120.
You know, I noticed US Bank and all the other banks, if you read their credit card agreements, all of them got the arbitration clause in there.
And that's exactly what
And
they're
they-
trying to do. And any dispute related can't go into a court. And therefore, it acts as a gag
Yeah.
order to be referred to arbitration, in which it'll be a documents filings only, no oral argument, usually proceeding. And then it would just show that you owe, and that's that.
Exactly, and it's funny because they give you the 40 days opt-out option.
That's right.
Guess what? Nobody reads
To
the
bind you as
contract.
a non-signatory after you have just activated their usage of the card, the usage of the card. So they use consent by action, or what is known as the second theory of binding of a non-signatory, which is called assumption. You assumed
Yep.
portions of the contract. Therefore, you are liable for it all.
And they also wrote it in bold, big bold letters to say this is very important. Read it. That's what we're doing too with the cease and desist.
Amazing. Tupo, I want you to kill the recording at this time.